Spencer, how are you doing today?
Hey, Ran, I'm good. Good. Looking forward to a good conversation about everything Wrexham.
Yes. It is that time of the season where we face Notts yet again, and we need the expertise on pre-Super Bowl day from the one and only Spencer Harris. Everybody put a round of applause for Spencer Harris. Yes, thank you for joining us today. If anybody is tuning in for the first time, what we do here is take a look at Wrexham, not only the team, but the city, the town, the people, from the beginners, outsiders perspective, and we kind of break down those little nuances to make sure that everybody that's new and joining in is up to speed with the seasoned fans. We do have a very seasoned fan with us today, a return special guest, Spencer Harris. Spencer Harris, could you introduce yourself to anybody who may not know who Spencer Harris is?
Okay, I'm a very long-standing supporter of Wrexham Football Club, Club Pêl Droed Wrexham, as we say in Welsh. And for 10 years, I was a director, or a cyfarwyddwr, as we say in Welsh, a director of the club, and was a part of the team who helped the transition to Rob and Ryan happen.
Ooh. Yeah. So anybody that hasn't seen the documentary series, yes, that is who Spencer Harris is. If you've seen it, you already know who he is. This is Teach Me How to Wrexham.
Like, how hungover were you that day? Was
no. I very much learned from my mistakes.
Those were great. Oh, there we are. Just had a thank you very much, ma'am. There you go. So I've had some donuts delivered from my mum. Thank you very much for that.
I don't get very bullish. I'm not going to do we're going to stop 5-0. Yeah. I don't.
So don't listen. or do, because we could do with the extra views, and I'll tell you why exactly you are horrible little vermin.
Hey, this is Robbo.
I'm Robbo Jr.
And make sure you tune in this week.
It's a good one, don't miss it.
Well, Spencer, we are moments away, hours away from Super Bowl kicking off. So we have to talk about the elephant that's in the room first. Being a Jets fan, how did the season go for you, and what are your expectations going in today?
So the season was not great for the Jets. I watched all the games. The Jets had a pretty poor season. They had a couple of high spots. They beat the Eagles, they beat the Chiefs. So there was a couple of real high spots during the season, but the season really ended 4 snaps in when Rodgers snapped his Achilles. So that was a brutal start to the year after all the hype. So not the greatest of seasons for the Jets. I'm hoping that Coach Salah and Joe Douglas can get the draft right, can get free contract people, the right ones, to bolster the offensive line, protect Rodgers, and next season hopefully it is a playoff season at least, because I think the Jets have the longest record in US sports of not reaching the end of season playoffs. So it's time to put to bed.
Wow. Okay. I didn't realize that either. So currently, right now, the longest dry spell
correct.
is
I think it's 2000,
your Jets.
I think it's 2010 since they made the playoffs. I think they're in a tough division, so it's always a tough division with Patriots, with the Bills, and with the Dolphins. That's a really tough division, to be honest.
Yeah.
But that being said, they've got to do better.
Yeah. It's something that I thought about a couple of weeks ago, and not that nobody's thought about that before, but it just dawned on me that even in no matter the professional sports, there's always a team that you look at, and I'm not saying that's always the Jets, but in history it has been at times, and that you look at and you're like, what are they doing in the league? How are they at the bottom? How are they so bad? But every team has faced it. Like Arizona Cardinals over here, we have had our plenty of years that sometimes go back to back to making it to the Super Bowl or making it to playoffs and then not making it again the next year, or looking at that number one draft position because of how bad we finished the season. But from one football to another football, we have Wrexham going into the second part of the season, facing these teams that we faced already, some of them like Notts that we faced a few times over the last couple of years. And what would you say to new fans out there or the newer fans that are looking at the season right now and wondering, where are we with the state of affairs?
Yep. Well, as we talk, Wrexham are on the back of 3 straight league defeats. Now, 2 of which has been away. You can say it's 4 defeats if you take the FA Cup as well, but a defeat away to a championship side is no disgrace and is an expected result for Wrexham as we make our journey, hopefully up the leagues. So 3 defeats is not great. The 2 away games were poor. One of which we had a player sent off very early on, so we played almost the whole 90 with 10 players versus 11, so that wasn't great. And then a poor result away to a resurgent Salford City side who should be much higher in the table than they are, and who are on a really great run of form. So we've probably played teams at a bad time. But then another defeat yesterday at home to Bradford City. I think that we were unlucky in that game. I don't think there's many people, whether you were a fan of Wrexham in the stadium or a fan of Bradford, who would have said, do you know what, Bradford really deserved to win that game. So I think, on the first half alone, Wrexham could have been ahead and it would have turned out to be a slightly different game. But that is football. If you don't take your chances, you don't win football games. So we're in not the best run of form at the moment. However, football, you can gain momentum just as quickly as you lose momentum. So I would, whilst obviously it's concerning for people, but it's not a time to panic. I think it's a time for the manager and for the players to get together, and I think really go back to basics, go for clean sheets, try not to concede goals, and get back to picking up points on a regular basis.
And not to put you on the spot with saying, hey, dissect Parkey and tell us where he is wrong and what you would have done differently. But a more seasoned, experienced person like yourself, if you're looking at how these last 4 games have gone with the league games and also with the cup game, do you see any consistent holes or gaps that need to be addressed? Or is it a very varying different things that is an overall led to defeats as opposed to one specific thing that we can point to?
So the first thing that people always do when you lose a football game or any sports game is to look at yourself first. That's where people always go, and to be introspective in their analysis of game. X player didn't play well, Y player didn't play well, etc. However, there's 2 teams who are competing in any single sports fixture, and the starting place for me, you have to give a little bit of credit to the opposition that we faced over the last few weeks. And I think the one thing I think consistently that each of those sides has done, more so Salford and Newport rather than Bradford. I think Bradford got away with one yesterday, if I'm honest. That's my honest opinion and assessment of the game. However, Newport and Salford away, what they did extremely well was press high, press our players as soon as they got onto the ball with high energy, and made it very, very difficult for Wrexham to get our fullbacks high, to play out from the back and to get any momentum into the game at all. So I start with, give the opposition some credit. But then you have to look at that and say, our opposition team's starting to work us out, and there's a blueprint there for picking up points against Wrexham, and therefore that's up for the manager and players to find the way around that, and it starts with being brave on the ball and making sure that actually we do try and retain possession a little bit better than what we've done, and we do try and get our players another 10-15 yards further up the pitch.
And we looked pretty good the first half against Bradford. If we're looking at some of the positives that we've seen over the last 4 matches or even the season, is there any standout players so far for you for the season or within the last couple of games that you would point to and say, hey, they need more playing time, or let them lead the charge, or etc.?
I think if I look at over the season, there's been many great contributors, because we're still, should we win our games in hand, we'll be in an automatic promotion place. So games in hand, you'd rather points on the board, but we do have games in hand. So there's been many good performances. You look at Elliot Lee, maybe not quite as influential over the last few games, but for the majority of the season has been really, really influential in the centre of the pitch. George Evans, another one who it does a great job of always being there and available to take the ball, recycling. So I think he's had a great season. And then you've got Arthur Okonkwo in goal, who saved a penalty yesterday. There was sort of 2 penalty shouts that I thought were very, very similar. One was given for Bradford, the one for Wrexham wasn't given. But yeah, so I think we've got players in the team who've consistently played well across the season. And then you've got others who've sort of come in fits and starts. Andy Cannon has had some absolutely amazing periods across the season. Didn't start the season very well, but has had some really great periods of the season. Aaron Hayden's been good at points, but has unfortunately spent a lot of the season injured. Ryan Barnett's had some really great games and always delivers a quality ball into the box. So there's James McLean has had periods where he's played really well. So lots of great performances. But the one who I would pick out over the last few games, he's come back into the side in the last couple of games after injury, is Stephen Fletcher. I think, even at 37 years old, he makes such a difference. He's such a clever player, very unlucky not to score yesterday, and when he came on away at Salford, got the ball in the net. Unfortunately, was just offside. I don't know whether the linesman flagged him offside, whether he was or whether he wasn't is immaterial. He probably was, but yeah. So I think Fletcher makes a big difference to our side. But the problem with Fletcher and for Wrexham is at 37, you can't expect him to play sort of 95, 96 minutes every game, Monday, Tuesday, if you're going to get the best out of him.
Yeah, he's outstanding, and he has those 1-2 touches that are just absolutely perfect. And of course, that's a Premier League experience that's shining through. Yeah. He looks like you almost hold your breath if he's close enough, because some magic could happen. You don't want to miss it. You don't want to be talking or blinking or doing anything to. I mean, when he had that one earlier in the season, he had that overhead, bicycle, Chilena kick. And that, if that would have went in, it's like, okay, just put the statue up in town for him already. We'll have a 7-foot Fletcher with a man bun in the back, and we'll sing to.
Yeah, I love watching him play, and he's such an interesting character, and it's a bit like watching a grizzly bear coming onto the pitch and play. He's so broad, and with his man bun and his beard, there's something really, for the hipsters amongst us. He really would be the hipster's choice. So I think he's a great player, and is currently the one who has led the line really, really well.
Yeah, and so for us that have our rose-colored Wrexham goggles on when we're watching the game, and we're yelling at the TV, thinking that all the calls are going the other team's way and not our team, objectively as you can, how right are we in either this season or within recently that it feels like the calls are not equal? We're not getting the same calls that other teams are getting. Is that just my Wrexham goggles on, or do you feel like there's any merit to that?
Honestly, I think if I'm honest, I believe that there may be one or two rogue, but the majority of referees are there doing the very best job that they can. If you're watching it on a live stream, you get the opportunity to see a replay. You can see it from different angles. You see it back once or twice, and you can make a more informed decision. The referee sees it at pitch level. Very different game looking at the game from above to seeing it at pitch level. So, you can have players in the way and all sorts of things. So he's seen it at pitch level. He's seeing it at speed and close. And he gets one opportunity to see it. I actually thought the referee yesterday gave us the majority of the decisions. Now, were they the right decisions to give? I think we earned the majority of the decisions, because I thought Bradford were one team who brought the dark arts to the game, feigning head injuries when we were attacking to stop the game, when it was quite clear there was no head injury at all. So so I thought they brought the dark arts, but we got the majority of the free kicks. The one thing that the referee got badly wrong, and I thought did actually have a bearing on the game, was for the Bradford goal. He did a drop ball and gave the ball to Bradford after an injury to their goalkeeper. I think it was to their goalkeeper or somebody in their defence. And actually, at the time he stopped play, Wrexham had the ball. So he should have given the ball to Wrexham and not to Bradford, and that may well have prevented the Bradford goal yesterday. So I think that's the one fundamentally got wrong. But other than that, the referee yesterday wasn't the best, but I think he saw it fairly. In general, do think we're being a little bit unlucky in we seem to have more sendings off for similar offences than other sides, and we're not getting many penalties. I thought there was two very similar offences in the box yesterday, one of which he gave to Bradford, and the one that Mullin went down he didn't give to Wrexham. But I think referees ultimately are doing their best.
So if you are a wonderful Welsh speaker, and one of the things that I like to do, and a lot of the other people that view like to learn Welsh when we can, since it is evening for you, I'll say noswaith da? Noswaith day?
Yeah, noswaith da, yeah.
Noswaith da, okay.
Da, yep. So the da, which is good after noswaith, turns to with a mutation to tha, which is double da. So the words, depending on what word comes before the next word changes, which is quite difficult to understand. But it's noswaith da. So you're very, very, very good. Got it spot on.
Is that from? Did Welsh ever have genders? Is that something that...
Yeah, Welsh has genders. Yep. So you have he or vo for he and she. So it and a bit like other European languages, in English you would say the blue book, but in Welsh you would say the book blue. You say it the other way around.
Ooh,
so
okay.
you say llyfr glas, which is blue book. The glass is the blue, and it comes second. So there's
okay.
But many languages in Europe are like that, French and others.
Yeah, with the subject and verb and object
Correct.
being switched around.
Correct.
Yeah. So let's say what I'm interpreting is, as a newer fan, if we're panicked right now, don't be panicked, or we don't need to panic too much. We might say, don't hit the panic button. We don't need to hit the panic button right now. Is there a Welsh phrase or idiom that is similar to that about hitting the panic button?
Well, I would say paid a poeni, which is don't worry. That's probably the easiest.
Paid a pony?
Paid a poeni, yeah, that's right. Which is don't... paid a poeni gormod, don't worry too much. It's okay to be concerned. Everybody wants to see the team winning each week, and we've become accustomed to seeing the team winning each week. But we've got too good a squad, too good a set of players for that to go on for too long, in my considered opinion. And therefore that drought will come to an end. And when it comes to an end, hopefully we can build some momentum the other way and string a few wins back to back. And then the whole situation will look a lot rosier. And hopefully that starts sooner rather than later. It would be great. We have a match on Tuesday night away at Sutton. It would be great if we could. I like Sutton. I like the people behind the scenes at Sutton. They're actually really decent people. Not everybody in football is great behind the scenes, but Sutton are good guys. So, and I'm very sorry to anybody from Sutton, therefore, but I'd love us to go there and turn them over.
Yeah, and that's a good transition. So as we're looking into this upcoming week, we have 2 matches within 7 days. We have Sutton first away. How are you feeling? Is this a must win for us? Is it something that we can take a point away? What are we looking at the stakes for the Sutton match?
So sometimes you have to target games, in my opinion, to say, look, we need to. This is a great opportunity to try and get 3 points. Sutton, they've actually been on quite a decent run. They haven't been winning matches, but they haven't been losing many matches, and they've been really competitive. They lost at the weekend. We need to go there and prey on that desperation that they've got to try and win matches now and try and get a win, because we've got 2 really, really difficult away matches coming up at the end of this month, one being away at MK Dons, one being away at Gillingham, both teams who are in the playoffs and fairly close to us now, actually, in points. So, they're going to be really tough matches. So if you're going to go away and win this month, Sutton is as good an opportunity as you're likely to get. So we need to go there and target that game and try our very best to come back with 3 points. Will we do it? Let's see. I hope so. Even though, I like the people at Sutton and I hope they stay up. I hope their great run starts after, from Wednesday this week rather than Tuesday. But yeah, so I think Tuesday is a really important game, I think, for the team.
And for all of us fans that are tuning in from afar, are you going to the match, or will you be tuning on TV like us?
No, I'll be tuning in on TV. Had it been a Saturday game, I'd love to go down to Gander Green Lane. What a lovely name for a stadium, Gander Green Lane. But with it being a night match in South London, I'm very busy in work at the moment. So to get all the way down to South London, it's more or less you have to take the day off work, and then you're not going to get back until the match will finish at sort of 9:30, 20 to 10. You're not going to get home till 2-3 o'clock in the morning, and then that starts to mess with your next day. So I'm going to take the opportunity to watch it on a live stream, the same as you guys will be.
And then what was the Welsh phrase again? I'm going to butcher it for a second. because I'm going to just try to remember. Paintaponi Gormad.
That's it. Paidafoni Gormod. There you go.
Paidafoni Gormad. Okay. Wow. Okay. So don't panic so much.
Yeah. Don't worry too much.
Don't worry too much. Okay. All right. And so now we're looking at what, for some of us newer fans, may hold a little bit more weight because of when we started watching and the rivalry that exists, or lack of, for depending on where your stance is, for Notts County. For a lot of us, we've been battling them and seeing them, hand in hand for the last couple of seasons. So for us, it's kind of exciting coming into this game to watch the match, face them again, familiar faces and names that we've seen. We have memories with a lot of the players that are still on the team. For you, is it holding as much weight as a seasoned Wrexham fan as it is for us newer fans, Notts County, or is this like another match that just like any other team want to get the 3 points in?
So I think it does, just because of the recent past and that titanic title struggle with Notts County. It has sort of bonded the clubs, certainly for the next few years, together in some respect. Albeit Notts County have never been a big rival of ours. It's a 3-hour drive away from Wrexham, or maybe a little bit more. It's across country. It's not a team that what you would say is a local rival, whereby there's a lot of interest in that particular game. But because of the title last season and the way we couldn't get rid of them for the whole season, it has become something of an interesting matchup, especially given how dramatic that game was in April 2023, with the 3-2 win and the Ben Foster save. That just makes it that little bit spicier.
Yeah, and they've had their highs and their lows in League Two so far, like we have, where there's been moments of brilliance where it looks like, hey, we're both going up this season. We're both going to League Two. And then there's moments like now where you're looking at it, we're sitting 5th, they're sitting 10th, and it's still not out of the realm that they could be battling in for a playoff spot. If not, there's a lot of football left where they can still put it together. A lot of people can still put together an automatic position to the end of the season. Is that something that you would like to see Notts go up the same time as us, just to keep that familiar rivalry and championship chasing, the passion that both sides have going? Is that something you'd like to see, or is it, if they're in the League Two next year and we're in League One, it's like we've done it, we've excelled? So
if you were to say, I'll guarantee you Wrexham will go up as long as you accept Notts County coming with you, I would snap both of your arms off for that. However, if that's not an offer from a celestial power, then honestly, I have no connection with Notts to consider whether I'd like to see them get promoted with us or not. If you for the teams that make it from League Two into League One next season, for some of the newer fans, you may not be aware of the size and scale of some of the teams who find themselves in League One. Teams like Derby County, who are former, winners of the, before it was the Premier League, but the Football League. Bolton, who were a Premier League side for many years. Portsmouth, who were a Premier League side for many, many years. So you've got a number of really big clubs in that division. You have teams like Port Vale, who you may never have heard of, but a team that's less than an hour from here. and there's always been a big rivalry between Wrexham and Port Vale, really spicy on and off the pitch. So, games like that, Shrewsbury Town, our friends from just over the border in Shropshire are likely to stay up and be there waiting for us. There would be tremendous games in that division with some really big clubs. The likes of Derby County get 30,000 to their home games. Big clubs. We're getting 12,500, but these are big clubs. So if you can get up, there's some great games. So if Notts come with us, fine. If they don't come with us, I don't give a monkeys. That's
completely fair, because that's what we need, right? We need the perspective of what does the seasoned Wrexham fan feel about that? Because it's sometimes, as a newer fan, you get that recency biased, and sometimes that recency biased is the only bias that you have. So you're should I care a little bit more? Should I not care? And it's sometimes you see some of the attacks from other clubs that are against either us, which are an easy target to attack, but sometimes Notts too, and you can kind of feel the sympathy where Notts takes a loss and they're like, yeah, you thought it was going to be easy coming to League Two, didn't you? And you're like, oh, that's what you were saying to us last week. So it's like, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Or it's yeah.
No, I get it. But what we're finding is that there's probably 4 or 5, maybe 6 or 7 teams who've got a bit of momentum at the moment. Apart from that, everybody else is beating everybody. People win one week, lose the next. It's a very, very competitive division this year, League Two. So I'm just hoping that we can rediscover some momentum. I don't care how we do it. If we get the luckiest win in the world, that'll do me. Sort of like, I'm not going to say Bradford had the luckiest win in the world. That wouldn't be fair, but I don't think they deserve to win. So just the way in which they won at the racecourse, I'd take that away at Gander Green Lane, and then hopefully we can go into the Notts game then with some momentum.
So you watch NFL, you're familiar with the weekly power rankings and sometimes daily power rankings that will get issued out. Is there an equivalence to that, either within the UK or within the EFL? Is there power rankings? Is that a thing?
No, there's not. What people tend to do, you'll see it next to the league table very often, is people's form over the last 5 games, but you don't get that concept in football. If
we had to, and you said about 4 or 5 teams that are separating themselves as kind of the upper echelon of the league. If you had to do a power ranking, you don't need to go down through the whole league, but if you wanted to do just the top 5, is that something you feel like you'd be able to name your top 5?
Let's talk. I won't talk where I think people are going to finish at the end of the season, because because honestly, I don't know. I may as well pick. From the top 12, I could pick any 5 names, and I might be right, I might be wrong, but where the teams that I think are the teams that have got momentum currently are the likes of Stockport. They've got a really good side, and they've got momentum, and they're clear at the top. So they're definitely one. I think Mansfield have rediscovered momentum after a bit of a wobble and are on to a winning streak. So that's great for them. MK Dons are coming very, very hard. They're only a point behind us now. We have a game in hand, but they've really closed up on us. Crew, they won last time out. They lost the time before that. But if you look over the last sort of 10 games, they're doing really well. So, and I think Barrow, they lost away, but they've got a number of home games coming up now in a short period of time. Whilst we're playing away, they're playing at home. So it's going to be it's going to be those are the teams I think we really need to look out for. I think those are going to be the teams that are going to be our rivals for a top 3 finish.
And luckily, over the next 5 to 6 games, we'll only be facing MK Dons from your official Spencer Harris Power Rankings. Let's cue the graphics and the trademark below it.
Yeah, and that is away, right, at Stadium MK, which is not the greatest place to go. It's a huge bowl of a stadium. It's a massive stadium, but they only get sort of 5,000-6,000 in it, and it's a 30,000 stadium. So, that number get lost in that huge stadium. So it's a bit of a soulless place to play football, really. But they're very good there. So, that is going to be a really tough game.
Yeah, and I couldn't have been any nicer to MK Dons in their soulless stadium than what was the match where it looked like maybe they had 25% capacity, and it's why wouldn't they just give more allocation to? Is that something where we might get a little more allocation, or is allocation already agreed upon at the beginning of the season and nothing you can do about it?
So I don't know about the whys and wherefores of that particular stadium and how you segregate supporters. So I couldn't say, but with it being MK Dons is quite a distance from Wrexham, so you're talking 4 hours to get there. It's a Tuesday night game, so I think the allocation is something in the region of 4,000. I don't see us taking more than the allocation on a Tuesday night. Had it been a Saturday, then it would have been interesting to see how many would have travelled. But with it being a Tuesday night, I think we should be okay for any fan that wants to go. My daughter's going down to that game.
Oh, nice. Would you feel comfortable giving a prediction for either the Sutton game or the Notts game?
So the only thing I usually predict is going to go dark at the end of the day, because there's so many variables in football that I find it really difficult to say with any level of certainty what a particular score is going to be. But for the sake of the pod and to give some thought, why don't I have a guess? Because that's all it is. It's an absolute guess. If I look at Sutton, I think the team are going to be really motivated to put an end to this run. I think the criticism that they've received for their away form, I think they might want to put that right. And I could see us going down to Sutton and getting either a 1-0 or a 2-1 victory. So I'm predicting a win away at Sutton, and then the home game against Notts. That's going to be a very interesting game, because they tend to keep most of the possession during the game, but they do leak goals. So if we can win down at Sutton, I predict that we would follow up with a victory at home against Notts. If we don't win down at Sutton, I think that game against Notts becomes much more difficult and nervous for the Wrexham players. So a win at Sutton equals a win at home at Notts.
Okay. Well, and I don't think any of us would be angry at all. We would not be mad about taking 6 points off of the next 2 games. Yeah, and especially if it's puts us into a better position, back into that automatic position at some point in time. I think that's what's been a little bit nerve-wracking this season, is being so close to just taking 3 points could have moved us into first at times, or kept us into second, and seeing it right there. Is that frustrating, or how frustrating is that, being so close to, I can't say glory or celebration because the season's not over, but to being, top of the league in League Two? We haven't been that.
So I like to go running, and I think a bit. I listen to music. Sometimes I listen to a podcast, but other times I will I will listen to music when I'm running. And going back, let's say 3, 4, 5 weeks ago, when we were in that position whereby a couple of wins might help us break free of the chasing pack, then my view was, look, if we can show consistency over the next 10 games and come out of that 10-game period with 18 to 20 points, then I'm almost certain we'll go on and get promoted. Unfortunately, we've sort of hit the buffers a little bit and have had our worst spell of the season. So I think we need to, if we take, I don't know, how many games have we played now? Is it 29?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I think it's 29.
29. Yeah, 29.
Yeah, 29 games. So that means there's 17 left. So I think, I love to see football in blocks of 10 games. I think so I would, if we can get 20 points out of the next 10 games, whichever way they come, so that's 2 points a game, or maybe even 19 points, 19 or 20 points from the next 10 games, then I'm fairly sure that will end in a successful outcome at the end of the season. But that's the challenge to the players now. Over the next 10 games, get 19, 20 points. If you do that, you'll get a promotion bonus, in my view.
That would be amazing to have back-to-back and then to have future conversations of, but what's the record? What was it? Sutton, 9 years to go from Tier 5 to Premier League or something. Luton. Luton, sorry.
Luton.
And they're tied with somebody else, right? Two people.
I think Swansea did it as well. Swansea City went from the 4th division, but that was pre-Premier League days, right? They almost did it in some ridiculous time. They almost had back-to-back promotions right the way through. It was incredible. I'd have to look how many years it took, but that was under John Toshak, who later went on to manage Real Madrid. He managed a Welshman, and he managed Real Madrid 3 times. Arguably the world's biggest club. Arguably, others would say, my view is Wrexham is the world's biggest club. But so who knows? But it is going to get, as you go up the divisions, it gets much more difficult, and the team that we've got now that you would be used to seeing in some of the names, it would look maybe only if we got all the way to the Championship, for example, in a couple of years' time, making it up, not suggesting we will, but if we did, there's probably only 1 or 2 players in that squad who would be able to make that leap. So you would see
who is that?
So from the current roster, and this is a personal opinion. If you look at the current roster, I would say Okonkwo. He's not our player though, but Okonkwo I think can make that leap. Controversial opinion, I know, but I think Jacob Mendy could make that leap. I think he's not even getting in our side at the moment. But I think he could make that leap. George Evans, I think, could still. He may not be starting every week, but I think he could do it. I think Elliot Lee potentially could do it. And if we could get Paul Mullin back and firing on all cylinders, then I think potentially Mullin could be, a squad player who comes on like a fox in the box. So out of our current setup, I think those are the players. But the striker we've just signed, Jack Marriott, he's played quite a number of seasons in the Championship. Okay, he's at the other end of his career now, but he's played there, as has Andy Cannon.
Yeah, and so you brought up one of the names that might strike some people as not like the others, and that being Mindy. I personally love Mindy. He might be my fan favorite Wrexham player, just his hard work and his work ethic, but also the way that he's just risen from the depths of non-league football. And as he's gone and moved up from league to another team, he's raised his game to match and been able to grow with it. And him being on the younger side of the players, he has the speed, and he's still learning the game. We saw him with Gambia, where he went from not getting flown out with the team to taking the starting position at the end of AFCON, where he played the last 2 matches. And from all accounts, everybody that was viewing the matches, I didn't get to see them, but from the reporters and everybody said that he held his own. He was making the decision for the starting position very difficult for Gambia because he's done so well. And so that's somebody who I would definitely be cheering behind for him to progress going forward. The sad part would be saying goodbye to some of the people that we do, have a fondness for, that we have followed. We've seen their stories on the, docu-series, and we've got to know them as people, not just numbers and not just stats and data. And if you could compare the level of closeness that the average fan has with the Wrexham players right now towards the past, did the documentary get us all closer to the players, or was the team more accessible in the past where you could actually be, because there wasn't Hollywood cameras around, you could actually get to know players a lot better?
Yep. A couple of things. Let me just finish off on Mendy. The reason why I think Mendy, and I did actually see his AFCON games and I thought he was excellent. But the reason why I think he can make it is because once you get to the Championship, it's very much more about pace and power. And he has those things that some of our other players don't. So that's my fundamental rationale why. But then your question about how can people get close to the players? Well, before every home match, there is a line of people waiting for autographs and for photos and things with our players, and they stop every game, both pre and post games, and photos and autographs and other things. So I still think for our level of football, they are really accessible to the supporters, and that's been a bit of a tradition with Wrexham players over the years. Now, as you move up divisions, then you look at the Premier League players and they're not accessible at all to their fans. Yes, they go and do promotional things, but normally they're in huge stadiums and the bus is driven inside the bowl of the stadium, and people don't get even to see the players in many of the grounds. So I think I still think we are, as a club, and the players still have got time for the fans, and there is that opportunity to get close to them should you wish to do so.
Yeah, it's way more accessible than American sports. It's from coming from over here, seeing that player accessibility. You're like, we don't have anything equivalent to having that access to them walking in, because it is like a bubble. They take either the charter buses in or they're private, and they park in the private area that has a private player's entrance that the public is nowhere around. So you can't even see what they're driving or what their, their clothes were before they suited up. One last thing before I ask you some Super Bowl questions about Wrexham in general is, if you could sign any player in the world to Wrexham, who would be that player and why? Okay.
Is this a current player or a player from any era?
Okay, I was thinking current, but let's do both if you've got one.
So if you could have said, Spencer, you can sign any player to play from Wrexham from any era, then the player I would sign without question would be Gareth Bale.
Ooh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
Is he the greatest footballer ever to play the game? No. Let's make that clear. Is he right up there, probably in the top 20, in my opinion? Yes. But as a proud Welshman, and for what he did for our country, I couldn't sign any other player but Bale. His pace, his power, he just had his leadership, everything about him. He was just an unbelievable, unbelievable player. So I would say, from Bygone, he's only retired a couple of years, but if I could take 2015, 2016, or the 2013 to 2016 Gareth Bale, or 2013 to 2019 Gareth Bale into the Wrexham side, oh my God, we would go right through the divisions to the Premier League without question, because he was that good. I think he
still has the legs. He could still come and play right now.
Yeah, I think he has, at the latter end of his career, I think he had back problems which really restricted his mobility, which meant, he couldn't quite do the things that he'd done earlier on in his career. So, but what a guy. So that would be going back then. Current players, oh my goodness. Trying to think of current players. Who would I sign? Well, Messi's at the end of his career, so probably not Messi. Maybe a Mo Salah, maybe somebody like him, or an Erling Haaland. For an exciting forward. But if you can ask me what midfielder would I probably sign, I'd probably sign Rodri from Man City, because he's just huge. Can score goals, breaks player, is a great player, and one who I think unfortunately is going to be a stupendous player. He's an English player, so he'll be playing for England. So is Jude Bellingham. Yeah. I think he's the first midfielder to score over 15 goals, I think, in his first year for Real Madrid. I mean, that takes some doing. I'm not sure that the Spanish league's as strong as it's been in the past, if I'm honest, but it still takes some doing, and I think he's some player.
Yeah. There's a good young player too, that if you were signing, you could really build a team around and push forward.
Yeah. If I could pinch him for Wales and he wasn't English, I'd put him near the
Does
top.
he have dual citizenship or anything like that qualifies him for?
Not that I'm aware of, no. And he's already played for England, so he's English. Because
it was Musa, right? He for Germany. Didn't he have 3 countries that he could have played for? England, Germany, and.
Yeah, there's a number of players who have that sort of multi-country eligibility.
Wow, it just I don't know who I want to play for. Who has the best team that has the best shot? Okay, I'll go.
I tell you what would be really interesting, and I really hope it happens over the next couple of years, is if Wrexham can sign their first American player. I think that would be. I think that not just a token gesture American player who's not going to play, but somebody who is top quality, standard American, who fans in America can see, because fans in America now are a key part of our journey. So I'd love to see an American playing for us. I think that would be brilliant reward for people, for people like yourself in America who are dedicating themselves and supporting the team from afar.
Yeah, who would be your American pick? I have one that I would love to see join the team, but who would you like to see?
So I'm trying to think what the name of the centre forward who played in the World Cup for America last. in Qatar. I should remember his name because I was at the game, the Wales v USA game in Qatar. I was in the stadium for that game, but I can't remember his name. Centre forward.
Not Pulisic.
No, not Pulisic. No.
There was a couple. They were rotating that out. So there was Gio Reyna. Weah was playing.
Trying to think. It was playing up front. Let's have a look. Wales versus USA Qatar.
We just got Balogun, Florian. He is that who he had just made the decision a year ago now to come and play for us?
Yeah, I think it would have been Weah. Yeah, it would have been Weah.
Okay.
Number 21.
He's good
he's
too.
The guy who scored the goal. Yeah, he was a good player. I really liked him.
Good.
He's very athletic.
Yeah, really fast. His recovery time is great, where he makes up field like distance where you think he's in a video game and he's mashed the buttons, which is a little bit of what people have called us like American soccer for years, is that we're like all speed without the clinical finishing, the tacticians.
Who's Weah playing for at the moment? I'm not sure where he's playing.
He's Havantis.
Havantis, is that in South America?
That is the Series A. Serie A.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's good. There's a lot of players now that where I would I'd take almost any of the starting players from the U.S. team.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're too good for the Wrexham side at the moment, but somebody who's up and coming in the US who's going to be a really good player, I'd love to see them. Pulling on the red Wrexham, that would be brilliant.
Do you think that's something Rob and Ryan, not publicly, so that they don't put any balls in motion and have a price tag associated?
If they're not thinking about that, they should be thinking about that. And I would definitely say they must be thinking about that. Because if what we're doing is building a connection and welcoming a whole range of supporters into our family, then you want to give some reward to people for their loyalty and their support. And I think having a US qualified player playing for Wrexham would give an extra incentive for people to either get behind the team or stay with the team.
Oh yeah, and there's so many fans within the US who haven't seen the documentary yet. Like there's a great number who have, and there's still a lot who haven't seen it yet. And getting a key player to come to Wrexham would, push some of those tides where it's like some of those fans who may not be into docuseries or anything, but just love football for football, getting one of their favorite players to come over to Wrexham. You're getting me excited over here. I'm like, ooh, who could we get? Who would we have?
I'd love somebody who plays in the US under 21 national team or something like that, somebody who's on the way up, potential to make the full team. If they progress and they progress with Rex, that would be fantastic. I'd love to see that.
Oh yeah. Well, so Rob, Ryan, obviously. You're watching this right now. You've heard it from Spencer. Start looking and scouting U.S. players so that we can get a good U.S. player onto Wrexham. Maybe that's the bonus we get if we get promoted into League One. It's just one player, just one U.S. player. We're not asking for two.
Well,
just one.
I don't mind it. We fill the team with U.S. and Welsh players. That would suit me down to the ground.
Yeah, I'm not upset with how many Irish players we have too. My dad's Irish, so I'm not mad at. I'm like, all right, yeah. I've loved the Irish players, Scottish players, and then of course the Welsh players.
We've got I think we've got that many Irish players now. They'll need to change the colour of the jerseys to green.
Yeah. There's officially, St. Patrick's Day will be a national Wrexham day with all
the away kit will have to be green next year.
Yeah. Well, I do want to get a couple of questions about your predictions for the Super Bowl.
Okay.
I have to grab one thing so that I'm fully prepared for this football talk. I'll be right back. Give me 1 second.
Okay.
All right, I had to bring my hat so we can be official now. Okay, so just a little summary. We are looking at the next 2 games in the next 7 days. If everything goes right, we're picking up 6 points and we're riding the tides. We are setting sail in the correct direction. We have course corrected. We've made those adjustments. We're better for it because we took them as learning experiences, not as losses. And we grow not only as a team, but as humans. And we're off to greener pastures called League One. In the meantime, we do have something called the Super Bowl. I don't know if you're going for one team or the other, but if you are, who are you going for, and who would you like to see players show up today?
Okay, so what I'd love to see is next season. Before I talk this season, next season, Jets versus the Cardinals in the final. Wouldn't that be great?
We have it right here, right now.
I think there's. I don't see there being much chance of that, but let's hope that could happen next year. I have to stick with the AFC and hope that that the Chiefs do it. I know they've won a few. I know they've won it twice over the last few years. But I watched a docu-series about quarterbacks, and they had Mahomes. They had what's the guy from the Vikings who got injured this season? Anyway, they had Mahomes was the main star of it, and it went into his home and showed a lot about him and how hard he worked and I just thought, he seemed like a real competitor and a good guy. So I think and they play in red. So so do the 49ers, right? They've got red and gold, but I'm not sure. There's always been something about the 49ers that I've not. Yeah, I'm more of a AFC guy, so I hope the Kansas City Chiefs win.
Yeah. The 49ers, they've won their fair share in history.
Yeah.
So this is a good match that I'm not going to say a score prediction because I'll be absolutely wrong. But what I'm going to say unofficially, it will be 49ers 13 and Taylor Swift 133, I think is how many she's going to score. I've heard a couple of Taylor Swift songs before. And I don't know, as an American, I'm absolutely enjoying the whirlwind and media coverage of Travis Kelce. And I don't know if you saw the documentary, the Kelce brothers documentary. But
no, I haven't watched it, no.
Okay. Yeah, it's good. I mean, they seem like great guys and
he's
like people that you want to root for.
Travis is a good player because he's such a receiver of the ball. For his position, not being a natural, he's not a wide receiver, but he takes as many catches as a wide receiver, right? And he's so big and strong, it's almost impossible to stop him. Yeah.
If you're Mahomes and you've got that good mobility to create something out of nothing, and you've got another player that can create something out of nothing, that's going to be your best friend. Like you'll be always code. Knowing where he's at. Yeah.
It's a cheat code. It's like having Elliot Lee when he's on form. It's a cheat code.
Yeah. There are a couple of our players that almost, if you've ever seen in the past, the Harlem Globetrotters, where it's like trick shots where a couple of times you see them, they just want to open up some of those like heel kicks and things where you're like, okay, I see the Rec Sunday League football you're doing right now. Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw did you see the advert, the Stoke cold brew advert that's going to be played during the Super Bowl today with Anthony
Yes.
Hopkins. Have you seen that?
Yes.
That's great. Amazing.
That is. And how things have got so big so quickly.
Yeah. It's amazing.
The names, and then a Super Bowl ad on top.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, as Anthony Hopkins as a proud Welshman he's a big hero of mine. I think he's one of the best actors I've ever seen, and his voice is so distinctive.
Yes.
He's such a powerful actor. To see him having being associated with our football club is just insane.
Yeah, so smart too, the way they put together all those press packs and everything. It's just like how, I don't know who's the driving force more with that publicity, if that's more of Ryan and his production company.
Yeah,
Maximum Effort.
Maximum Effort. I think they're very smart, and they move so quickly versus many other marketing firms that just test and retest and take forever to do something, and they just decide to do it and it's done. It's
so good.
Yeah,
well,
really,
before we wrap up today for our end of the show, could I get a Super Bowl prediction from you? Because this will go out, we'll know if we are correct or not by the time this one airs.
Okay, so I'm going that the Chiefs will win it by 10.
Ooh, okay. So plus 10 to the Chiefs. I will be happy with that. I don't have anything against it. 49ers aren't a team that I have any ill will feelings towards. There's other Cardinals that would feel differently from that, but I don't really see them as too big of a rivalry for myself. But Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, that is a dynamic duo that is absolutely fun to watch, and I would love to see them put on a good show. And maybe I think the halftime show, not that big into it, but you've got Reba McEntire's performing with Usher and some other people. We'll see how that works out.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you guys watch those halftime shows or?
No. Well, I probably, I'm recording the Super Bowl because it's starting, it's 11:30 at night start here, right? So it's really late here. So if the Jets were in the final, I would definitely be watching it live. But I may watch the first bit of it and sort of play it while I'm sort of half asleep type stuff, and I'll get up early tomorrow morning and watch it. But yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun.
All right. Well, I've had a bunch of fun talking with you again today. Again, I have 8 million more questions to ask you, but we'll have to save that for another day. Anybody that is tuning in enjoyed the wonderful conversation, wants to put your predictions either for the matches or for the Super Bowl that's already going to be out, or your comments on it inside the comments, go ahead and go for that. I'm going to nominate the emoji of a jet, a plane, a jet. If you made it all the way through the episode to the end, we have a group of some loyal, faithful viewers who watch them all the way to the end. We've been calling them the Final Fivers because we assume it's 5 people that made it all the way through. But if you made it all the way through, go ahead and put that jet plane, the airplane, in honor of Spencer Harris's Jets coming on today. Spencer, thank you so much for teaching us a lot again. And so I don't butcher it as the last thing they hear out, what is that sound advice of the, not to worry so much?
Paid y phoeni gormod.
You heard it here first. Pain y pori gormad.
Close enough. Well done. Thank you for trying. Really appreciate it.
I will work on that. That's nobody needs to see me stumble through it 100 times before I get it. I'll work on that. Have that ready for the next time. Thank you so much, Spencer.
Thanks, man.
Up the down.